Hello everyone, welcome back. Woohoo! Oh boy. Something's going on here. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila. You're at Alexandrian Archives. I hope you enjoy your stay. So today we have another individual book review. So if you're new to the channel and you don't know how this works, I usually split it into 3 sections. So I give you general overview of the book itself and everything. So genre, who sort of, if it's a series or not and stuff like that. And then I have my review, my thoughts, my notes, etc., etc. And then I have a section where I talk to you about who I would recommend it for. So the type of people that I would recommend it for. And at one point, I do send my rating. But you can always, if you're curious about my rating, you can always check out my Goodreads and my Storygraph, as well as my Instagram. I do have like a specific highlight with like the reviews and like my immediate thoughts after I finish the book that are all in my 2024 reviews highlights. So definitely check that out if you're curious, and if I forget to save the rating, which I realized I forgot to do so for another video, but oh well. Today's book that we will be reviewing is called To Cage a God by Elizabeth May. We're just gonna move a little bit. And this is high fantasy. This is inspired by Imperial Russia, so think Shadow and Bone-esque. I guess that's the closest thing I can give you. This, I believe, is the start of a series. I'm not too sure about whether it's a duology or a trilogy. I didn't like this enough to, I think, continue the series, so I think I'll just stop at book 1. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would, but I did enjoy myself. I think it was a little bit too long. But let's just get to the synopsis. Oh boy, I don't have a synopsis for this. To Cage a God, and the series is called These Monstrous Gods. So, to cage a god is divine. To be divine is to rule is to destroy. Using ancient secrets, Galena and Sarah's mother grafted gods into their bones. Bound to brutal deities and granted forbidden power no commoner has held in a millennia, the sisters have grown up to become living weapons, raised to overthrow an empire, no matter the cost. With their mother gone and their country on the brink of war, it falls to the sisters to take the helm of the rebellion, and to end the cruel reign of a royal family possessed by destructive gods. Because when the ruling Illyria invade, they conquer with fire and blood, and when they clash, common folk burn. While Sarah reunites with her estranged lover turned violent rebel leader, Galena infiltrates the palace. In this world of deception and danger, her only refuge is an isolated princess whose whip-smart tongue and sharp gaze threaten to uncover Galena's secret. Torn between desire and duty, Galena must make a choice. Work together to expose the lies of the empire, or bring it all down. So I do think this is sort of like romantasy. I'm not too sure. As I said, Imperial Russia inspired. I do appreciate the proper use of Russian naming conventions. People might think that I'm very prickly about it, about the whole naming convention thing, but that's because it's really important in Russian culture to follow the Russian naming conventions. It's just a thing. It's a thing. Exactly how in, for example, Canada, you use Miss, Mrs. or Mr. for a teacher, an adult that you're not familiar with, blah blah blah. We do have our version of that, except we don't have the prefixes like Miss, Mr. or Mrs. We have our first name, we have a patronymic, and we have a last name. So for example, okay, let's take the Romanovs, for example. You have the last princess, right? Anastasia Romanova. I think that's how you say it in English. I'm not too sure. So Anastasia is her first name. Okay. Anastasia would be in Russian. She'd probably be called like Nastya or something. Similar between friends and family and siblings. That is the nickname, the built-in nickname. It's called a diminutive, I believe. And then you have her last name, Romanova. And then you have her patronymic. So her dad's name is Nikolai, so she is Nikolaevna. Her brother, on the other hand, I believe his name was Alexei. So he's Alexei Romanov. I can't say it in English, it's so hard. So his patronymic would be Nikolaevich, because he's a boy and he's the son of Nikolai and she's the daughter of Nikolai. So that the specific patronymics and all the naming conventions have very specific uses in certain relationships and in certain situations. So if I was a teacher, let's say they would call me by my first name and my patronymic, that is the only way you'd call a teacher. That is literally how you'd call a teacher. You'd use their first name and their patronymic. So I definitely appreciate the use of that, because we see a lot of the time it's ignored, and I just have so much beef with Shadow and Bone and the way it's used, and it's so improper and it feels so lackluster and it's rude. It is rude to not follow the proper naming conventions, and you can't tell me that Shadow and Bone is just inspired by Russia. It is taken fully from Russia and Russian culture. Anyways, that's a whole other thing for a whole other video. Let me know if you want a video about that. I have thoughts. The next point I have is it could have done with less spicy scenes, because tensions were really high. Like, we're talking on the brink of war high, and nearly every POV the characters were off doing spicy stuff. I'm no stranger to spice in books, but really, it's giving that one Sarah J. Maas scene. Okay, I'm not gonna say it because my mom and my sister take it bath and they're like right over there. But we could have done less with. We could have done with so much less spicy scenes. It was a fun sort of no-brainer, I guess. You didn't really have to think to sort of absorb similar to Fourth Wing. It is just a fun read, you know. There were dragons, so the on the UK cover you have like a rib cage and then you have like a sort of snake in there. They're called zmeys or a zmiya. And they're differentiated by the male form and the female form in, I guess, Russian. It's the Russian words. And I wish we had gotten more of like their origin, I guess. They're not as prominent, for example, as in books like Fourth Wing. I hate to compare it to Fourth Wing, but but that's the only dragon book I remember having read most recent. So they're there, but it's not really there. Like, it's just in the ribs cage. There's no anatomical, there's no anatomy of how that works when you're born with it. How does that work? Like, where's your heart? Does it affect your heart? You know, like, there's no real world building, I guess, and I wish we got more of that. So as I said, wish we had more world building and background on the dragons. There is a made-up language which does take words, I believe, from Russian, and you have to flip back and forth for the translations. I think once in a while it would tell you the translations, but I feel like it would have benefited from maybe footnotes, because I would have understood if it was a real language, then okay, flip back and forth, I don't care because it's a real language, but this is a made-up language. So I feel like it would have benefited from translations, because I was reading on my e-reader and it's really frustrating to flip back and forth, and it sort of took me out of the story. So, and I just sort of skimmed the phrase, I guess. And there were some parts that did drag, and I feel like it maybe could have been 50 to maybe even 100 pages shorter, which it's not the end of the world that it's as long as it is, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm definitely a world building person rather than a character driven person. I don't know. And the last part of this review, which is who would I recommend it for? For those that liked Shadow and Bone and want an older age group fantasy, like an older character group, and it uses proper naming conventions. The idea is interesting. I wish you could have fleshed it out more in a more evenly paced way. I think we could have, I don't think 5 POVs was entirely necessary. We could have done maybe without Katya's POV quite a few times, I feel. So yeah, that's just kind of my thing. And it was a very fun fantasy. So those that want a fun fantasy, I would highly recommend. And that is it for this video. I hope you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you want to read it, if you read it, how you felt about it. If you don't want to read it, I will like to hear any of your thoughts. As usual, all the links will be down below. Check out my socials, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!